Chowing down in Greektown after a 2-year hiatus, the Taste of the Danforth makes this long-awaited return, drawing crowds of thousands to the popular celebration of Greek culture. Good evening. It's a busy summer festival weekend in the city. The Taste of the Danforth is back after it was put on hold for 2 years due to lack of funding. Local restaurants in the area welcoming the long lines and the boost in business. Let's go live to CTV's Mike Walker, who has been speaking with attendees throughout the day. Mike, have you been chowing down too?
I have a lot of options here in Greektown. Hundreds of thousands of people, Andrea, descending on the Danforth to celebrate the food, the culture, and music. And for many restaurants, they are relieved to see the return. They say this is the busiest weekend of the year for them. The Hallmark grills are back on the street and sizzling.
It's the best for the people, for the customer.
As massive crowds take in a celebration of food and culture. The Taste of the Danforth is back on after a 2-year hiatus.
It's so sad when it was gone. It's wonderful that it's back.
Sense of community. It's good. It's good to have everything back the way it was.
It's the busiest weekend of the year for many restaurants. They are grateful to see the long lines return.
It gives us a chance to put who we are on display, who we are as small businesses. Gives us a chance to introduce itself to new customers and clientele.
These events are the tradition of Toronto, and it should be happening.
The owner of Mosquito says the festival's absence had a direct impact on restaurants like his.
Well, a little dead. It's, average. The festival just promotes the people who have not been here for a long time just to come back.
Despite its popularity, Taste of the Danforth hasn't been held since 2023 due to financial shortfalls, but it's back on following support from all 3 levels of government, including $200,000 each from the city and province, plus $100,000 from the federal government.
It didn't mean that we didn't have to increase levies. I don't think anyone wanted that to begin with. Sponsorship was a little dry this year because of FIFA, so the 3 levels. The feds at the last minute, they came through. Everyone knew what the goal was, and it was this.
The BIA says about 575,000 people attended opening day, even more expected today.
It's the expression of the food, it's expression of the happiness and the joy, and as you can see, it's drawing in all customers and stuff for the businesses.
And it's not just Greek culture and food front and center. 100 vendors are offering global cuisines with new businesses opening in the neighborhood.
Environment, people, seeing all the foods and deliciousness.
A sense of community returning.
Just the atmosphere, right? People enjoying themselves.
With the annual Summer Street Festival back on. Taste of the Danforth draws about 1.5 million people every year, but given the turnout so far, organizers are anticipating attendance could reach 2 million. The festival wraps up Sunday night. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Andrea, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Get back to that eating. Well, now moving west to Etobicoke, where the 25th edition of Jerkfest is underway in Centennial Park this weekend. The annual celebration of Caribbean culture features more than 100 local artists, steel pan workshops, and cultural exhibits. CP24's Melissa Duggan was there.
So it is day 2 of Jerkfest that's underway right now at Centennial Park in Etobicoke. The music playing behind us, the smell of delicious food wafting through the air. Day 3 coming up tomorrow. But before we get to that, I want to talk to the founder of Jerkfest, now in its 25th year, by the way. Anthony, how does it feel to be out here again?
Man, it never gets tired. Right now we're running on fumes, but it's what we do for our culture and for the love of our people.
What was the idea behind sparking this event?
Missing home. Missing the Caribbean, and not having an event that I could identify readily with. When I migrated to Canada, the time I came was in August, and there was no Caribbean Jerk Food Festival. So I decided to start one, because that is just something I do naturally. An event planner, an entrepreneur, see an idea, and I decided basically to do it.
We've been talking to all sorts of people here today. Some of those behind-the-scenes activities, what it takes to serve up that great food. Have a listen.
We're having a lot of foods like jerk chicken, jerk pork, fried chicken, and also some delicacy meat like kangaroos and alligators. So yeah, you can come on out and enjoy the food. It's really good, I would tell you that it's a 10 out of 10. So just come on out and enjoy yourself. We even have some fishes and stuff like that. So Just come on out and enjoy yourself.
But another place to check out all the music on the Hill. Expect this to be packed a little bit later on tonight. And by the way, Jerkfest does continue tomorrow, 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. here at Centennial Park in Etobicoke. Back to you.
Thanks, Melissa. We'll have more news in a moment. First, here's a look at some weather earlier. So depending on where you were, you either heard it or felt it or saw it. Yeah, the thunderstorms were... I know when this afternoon I heard on the radio that Durham was really going to get hit hard. So depending on where you were, it was pretty bad. So hopefully wherever you are safe and you are dry. The GTA is under a thunderstorm watch or warning this hour. And of course, this was Durham earlier today. So let's take a little closer look at your forecast. Okay, so that tells the picture right there. It's the colors. Severe thunderstorm watch is the yellow, and the severe thunderstorm warning is that red or orange? Let's say that's orange. And so those are the areas that you really need to be aware of. And of course, it's moving slowly out of the area, but that's the way the map looks right now. As we look at the satellite radar, you can see those colors, the reds, the oranges, that's the severe weather moving through. So Toronto doesn't, you can see 6 o'clock there. We're pretty much out of the woods there, but to the east of us and to the south of us, they're still getting hit. As we look at the current wind speed directions, 22 kilometers an hour, and it's heading to the northeast from Toronto. As we look at our temperature right now, the humidity is a big part of it. It is feeling like in the 30s pretty much throughout the area. And let's one more look. There's Toronto Islands, in the 30s, 34 for the islands, 36 for Pearson, and it's going to be 17 degrees this evening. Well, turning now to other news. A man is dead after an early morning house fire in Etobicoke. Firefighters were called to a home on Moynes Avenue near Royal York Road and the Queensway around 12:30 this morning. They say the fire was in the basement of the home and also in the garage. A man was found by firefighters in the basement and pronounced dead at the scene.
The conditions they would have fought their way down into that basement, imagine literally going down into a chimney last night, and that's what the firefighters did. Of course, during that time of night, we always presume there are people in the house. And again, my staff did, as they do every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, did their job, and they did it well. So I want to thank them for their efforts, but in spite of their efforts, there has been one person confirmed deceased.
They will be working collaboratively with Toronto Fire, Toronto Police regarding this incident. Our main responsibilities will be to find the origin, cause, and circumstances around this incident at this point. Every situation is different, so our investigator will be taking a staggered approach to look at all evidence at hand and then determine that at that point.
Paramedics tell us that they assessed 3 patients at the scene but did not transport anyone to hospital. Investigators are also working to determine how the fire spread and whether there were working smoke detectors in the home. Well, police are investigating a reported shootout in North York parking lot late last night that left one person injured. Officers responded to the scene at Jane and Shoreham Drive just after 11 last night for reports that 2 groups were shooting at each other. One victim was rushed to hospital with serious injuries, but they're expected to survive. Police say the suspects fled on foot. The investigation is ongoing, and police are asking anyone with information to contact them or Crime Stoppers. And police are investigating after shots were fired during a brawl early this morning. Officers responded to Queen and Dovercourt around 4:40 for reports of a large fight between 10 to 20 people. Gunshots were also heard in the area. No one was located with injuries, but gunfire was located at the scene. The investigation is ongoing. Well, an arrest has been made in the killing of a Toronto woman last December. 32-year-old Abdul Ghaffori of Toronto was arrested yesterday with the help of national and international policing partners. He was brought back to Canada and is charged with first-degree murder. 30-year-old Haminashi Kurna was found dead in a residence near Wellington and Strawn on December 20th after being reported missing. Her death was the city's 45th homicide of 2025. An elderly woman is dead after a wrong-way crash on the QEW in Oakville last night. OPP say a sedan was traveling toward Toronto in the Fort Erie-bound lanes just after 10 and collided with another vehicle. The driver of the wrong-way vehicle, an 83-year-old woman, died from her injuries. The driver of the other vehicle sustained minor injuries. The cause of the crash is under investigation. And the southbound 404 at Finch is open again after a pedestrian was struck and killed early this morning. A stretch of the highway was closed for several hours while police investigated. OPP say they were called about a man walking on the highway around 5:50 this morning. Shortly after that, police say the man was struck by a transport truck and may have been struck by additional vehicles that didn't remain on scene. Foul play is not suspected, but police are appealing for witnesses. They're also telling motorists who may have been traveling through the area at the time to inspect their vehicles for possible damage. Well, Toronto police have made 2 more arrests in connection with a hate propaganda investigation. This follows an incident at a demonstration in North York this past winter. Pro-Israeli demonstrators and counter-protesters often gather at Bathurst and Shepherd on March 15th. The hate crime unit says the accused displayed anti-Semitic signs and marched towards the pro-Israeli group while shouting derogatory slurs. Investigators previously charged 6 suspects, and on Friday, 40-year-old Daniela Bonamico of Toronto and 63-year-old Sharam Naib Yazadi of Toronto were also arrested. They were set to appear in court today on charges of willful promotion of hatred and public incitement of hatred. A Kitchener man has pleaded guilty in the U.S. in a major computer hacking case, one of the largest ever cybersecurity breaches. CTV's Karis Mapp has the story.
A guilty plea from Connor Muka, also known as Alexander Muka. The 26-year-old was alleged to have been involved in a major international cybersecurity breach, targeting 165 companies such as AT&T, Ticketmaster, and Advance Auto Parts, who were all using Snowflake, a cloud-based data company, to store sensitive customer information.
The cloud database got hacked, and this guy, or these guys, I should say, made off with a whole bunch of customer data from all of these different companies, and then they started extorting people and extorting the companies for money.
According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Muka and other co-conspirators collected over $2.5 million in ransom payments.
This is a very popular story amongst individuals that follow cybersecurity, especially from a criminal perspective. It involves multiple jurisdictions. It involves multiple organizations.
Muka was arrested at his home in the Stanley Park area of Kitchener in October 2024. Some cybersecurity experts say they were surprised to see this scale of crime being carried out in Canada.
The vast majority of these criminal enterprises do operate from other jurisdictions where Western law enforcement has a harder time reaching out and apprehending them.
Muka was extradited to the United States in July of last year. On Wednesday, he pleaded guilty to computer fraud, wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and a related conspiracy. In a release from the DOJ, the Assistant Attorney General saying today's guilty plea serves a reminder to all cybercriminals, regardless of where they live, that they cannot hide behind a wall of anonymity. You will be found and brought to justice.
I think back in the early 80s, you might have seen some hesitation or uncertainty as to how prosecutors might go after these crimes, which at that time were quite novel. Now it's fairly routine.
Likely only growing more common with continued technological advancements.
As our lives become more digital and go more online, hackers and fraudsters are going to exploit that.
Karis Mapp, CTV News, Kitchener.
A flight from Victoria to Toronto was canceled this week after a toddler refused to sit down and buckle up before takeoff. Porter Airlines tells CTV News that the plane was heading for the runway when crew members realized the child was standing in their seat. The toddler's parent and cabin crew members tried to buckle them in, but when they were unsuccessful, the plane went back to the terminal so the child and the parent could get off the plane. By the time they got their bags and Porter made new flight plans, it was after 12:30 in the morning, which is when the runway closes. As a result, the flight was canceled, and the other passengers were put on a flight the next day. Well, today marks 6 months since the opening of the Eglinton LRT. This comes as Metrolinx says it's about to reach a milestone on another major transit project. Vehicle testing is set to begin next week for the Hazel-McCallion line. Transportation Minister Parmeet Sakaria says the testing will happen on Top Flight Drive, just off Hurontario Street, near Highway 407 in Mississauga. Now, the 18-kilometer line along Hurontario will connect Mississauga and Brampton. It was originally slated to open in 2024, but is now expected to be completed in 2028. And speaking of transit, there are service changes on the GO Trains Lakeshore West line this weekend. Trains are running every 30 minutes due to construction, supporting what officials are calling major track upgrades. The Toronto-bound train, due to arrive at Union Station just after 12:30 a.m., will also not be stopping at Exhibition Station, while the 7:22 trip from Union will leave 12 minutes early. Well, industry sources tell CTV News that the federal government is offering to drop counter tariffs on autos and push provinces to put American alcohol back on shelves. That would be in exchange for easing tariffs.
The suggestion that talks have intensified or that we've entered some new stage of intense discussion seems to be valid. There are indeed real talks. They sound like they're involving a number of sectors. Sounds like they're working through a list of irritants on both sides and possibly even the framework for some kind of deal, at least around the sectoral tariffs.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc met with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer in Washington this week. Chief negotiator Janice Charette was also in town. LeBlanc said Ottawa's focus is on striking a comprehensive deal that addresses sectorial tariffs, including on steel and aluminum. This comes as Canadian steel and aluminum exporters face growing challenges because of U.S. trade measures.
Strategic sourcing is changing for steel fabricators. We're seeing less and less steel in Canada that's coming from the U.S. as a result of the tariffs. People are responding by changing their supply chain strategies, and that's just the reality.
The U.S. doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50% in June of last year. We mentioned the part of the potential deal that would see Ottawa urging provinces to put American alcohol back on their shelves. Quebec Premier Christine Frechette told CTV News that her province isn't interested. She says it's essential to keep the ban in place until a fair agreement is reached with Washington. Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only provinces still permitting U.S. alcohol. A recent Nano survey found 74% of Canadians were unlikely to buy the products if they return. Well, after a close overnight vote, the U.S. Senate has confirmed President Donald Trump's former personal lawyer as the country's new Attorney General.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 49. The nomination is confirmed.
Todd Blanche has been serving as acting Attorney General since Pam Bondi's dismissal in April. He came under fire over his role in the creation of a $1.8 billion U.S. fund meant to benefit Trump's political allies. A number of Republicans who'd complained about the fund said they would support his confirmation after he issued a formal order rescinding it. One key holdout, outgoing Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, said he would support Blanche's appointment due to concerns over what would happen if he did not.
Mr. Blanche is not perfect, and he will tell you this, but the choice is not between perfection and Mr. Blanche. It is between Mr. Blanche and another acting Attorney General who may not run the department effectively under President Trump and who indeed may not be as good as Mr. Blanche. This puts at risk the progress made fighting violent crime, human and drug trafficking, and fraud. And this does not serve the American people well.
In the end, all Democrats and 2 Republicans voted against Blanche's confirmation. He said he was deeply honored by the trust and confidence President Trump had placed in him. The number of wildfires burning across northern Ontario remains above 150. The most recent figures from the province show 2 new wildland fires were confirmed in the northwest region. 110 are burning there, with 15 considered not under control. In the northeast, there was 1 new wildland fire confirmed yesterday for a total of 44, 1 not under control. In British Columbia, there are at least 100 active fires burning, with around half of them considered out of control. An evacuation order was issued in Summerland, forcing the entire community to evacuate their homes during the night. The fire that is threatening the area has spread incredibly quickly. The community of Summerland is about 16 kilometers north of Penticton, BC, where many residents fled to. BC Premier David Eby addressed the developing situation this afternoon.
Today, based on the advice of emergency officials, Minister Green has declared a provincial state of emergency. With this new fast-moving wildfire and the large-scale evacuation that took place overnight, emergency officials advise us that they now need the specific tools it enables available to them at a moment's notice, should they be needed.
It will give us the ability to do things like commandeer accommodations or bring in local travel restrictions in specific areas if it should become necessary.
The Prime Minister said there are no such restrictions in place right now, but she still urged residents to avoid travel to the district of Summerland at this time. Prime Minister Mark Carney posted on social media today thanking firefighters and first responders working to keep people safe, adding the federal government stands ready to help and support the government of British Columbia in these efforts. I'm keeping everyone forced from their homes in my thoughts and hoping they can return safely soon. With wildfires burning on both sides of the border, a new Nanos poll commissioned by CTV asked Canadians how they feel about helping the U.S. when disaster strikes. As Joy Malbon reports, it seems Canadians are still good neighbors.
When wildfires raged across California last year, Canadians didn't stand on the border and watch. They loaded trucks, boarded planes. Hundreds of firefighters headed south to help. And when hurricanes have slammed into the U.S., Canada sent ships, helicopters, and supplies. And Canadian crews helped turn the power back on. A new Nanos poll shows 8 out of 10 Canadians strongly support sending first responders to the U.S. when disaster strikes.
At the very same time that the United States or the White House is threatening a 50% tariff on some Canadian goods, Canadians, 8 out of every 10 Canadians, put up their hand to say they would support or some would support helping the U.S. with a natural disaster.
Even in these troubled political times of trade tensions and threats,
we're going to put a big tariff on Canada because of the smoke.
This poll shows Canadians still support lending a hand to Americans. Ottawa says Canada and the U.S. have a long history of supporting one another, sharing resources to battle wildfires when they're able, part of a long-standing cross-border emergency management agreement covering disasters.
We should not confuse trade relations and trade negotiations or what's said in the White House or what's said by the Prime Minister of Canada. We shouldn't confuse that with being a good neighbor.
After 9/11, Canadians sheltered thousands of stranded airline passengers in Gander, Newfoundland. During the Iran hostage crisis in 1979, Canadian diplomats helped 6 Americans escape.
If you're in the United States, you have to be thinking, could you ask for a better neighbor than Canada?
This poll, perhaps a timely reminder to those in the White House. Joy Malbon, CTV News, Washington.
Iran is listing new demands on the U.S. to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, saying a deal is close, but not enough to open the waterway. Iran's top national security body secretary now says the U.S. must end threats against Iran, stop aggression against Iran and its allies, lift a blockade and sanctions, compensate Iran for war damage, and unfreeze Iranian assets. This comes after Iran's foreign minister says Tehran and Oman are working on a temporary shipping route while they sort out the legal and technical details of a permanent one. Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates is condemning what it says was an Iranian attack on a vessel in the Strait of Hormuz linked to its state oil company. No injuries were reported, but Abu Dhabi is accusing Iran's Revolutionary Guard of targeting its commercial ships and violating freedom of navigation. Tehran has repeatedly threatened to take action against vessels linked to its rivals. Before the conflict, about 1/5 of the world's oil and natural gas passed through the strait. Well, Ukrainian officials say 3 people, including a child, were killed in the latest wave of Russian strikes on the Kyiv region. Fire crews rushed to put out flames after powerful explosions were heard in the country's capital. Ukraine has fallen critically short of air defenses capable of downing Russia's ballistic missiles. Elsewhere, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is visiting Serbia this weekend. He met with leaders including President Alexander Vučić, an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, before Moscow's invasion started. Ukraine's leader is trying to solidify international support as the war drags on. Here in Canada, an Italian restaurant in Edmonton is garnering customers with their creative social media strategy. The humble 22-seat restaurant has garnered upwards of 5 million views on TikTok thanks to its bait-and-switch advertising. CTV's Curtis Goodrum explains.
Papa Giuseppe Kitchen in downtown Edmonton has been open for 2 years.
Yeah.
Videos like this gained traction over the past year, getting the 22-seat restaurant close to 70,000 TikTok followers.
We tried a lot of things to make it work, and then when that specifically strategy worked, we focused on it.
It started bringing people in, which was lovely.
The restaurant manager estimates the account brings in around 3 out of every 5 customers, with some traveling hours to try the food.
The one reason right now I could say why we're still treading water, we're keeping afloat, is because we can get these people coming in from out of town, because a lot of people in Edmonton just don't want to be downtown right now.
He says turning to social media and creating a unique posting style is something other restaurants should consider to get people in the door.
That's literally where our profit margin comes from right now.
Welcome to Papa Giuseppe's Kitchen.
You just got Giuseppe'd. That's what people online and at the business are calling it when you get tricked by one of their videos. It's an odd marketing strategy, but it seems to be paying off.
I live in Edmonton all my life. Never heard of Giuseppe's.
This lunchtime visitor heard about the pizza spot from his daughter, who learned about it from a little further away.
And met some good friends from Manchester, England. And they asked them where they're from. She said Edmonton. And the British guy says, well, I know Edmonton, that's where Giuseppe's is.
The restaurant manager says it's not a one-off, and they're building a customer base out of people who got Giuseppe'd.
The reach that social media can have is absolutely insane. The power that it has is insane.
That power and product gaining them a global audience. Curtis Goodrum, CTV News, Edmonton.
Still ahead, have you noticed this particular summer being particularly bad for mosquitoes? We'll have the latest research out of southwestern Ontario tracking the tiger mosquito. Great. When we return, there's another one.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back outside, researchers in southwestern Ontario are asking for help tracking mosquito populations, trying to identify an invasive species before it can start causing problems. CTV's Chris Campbell reports on the search for the tiger mosquito.
Mosquitoes may be a summer nuisance, but for researchers, they're a potential source of important information. The University of Windsor is asking those in Windsor, Essex, to help collect the bodies of dead mosquitoes this summer. The less squished, the better. They have a particular interest in the invasive tiger mosquito.
So they want to know how common they are in our area, if their population is increasing, and they're trying to track where it might be found in our area.
The tiger mosquito has been found in Windsor, Essex for about a decade, and while it can be difficult to identify just by looking at one, researchers have several ways of figuring out what species they've caught. For anyone outside this summer, the mosquitoes are already getting plenty of attention.
I started down that path and I said, nope.
This cyclist from Bell River says she wasn't familiar with this kind of citizen science project, but likes the idea of the public helping out.
That's excellent because you get a good sample that way, you know, and the university does a lot of good work here.
It'll give us something else to look for. We're doing a scavenger hunt, and now we can look for this mosquito.
And there's a public health reason researchers want to keep an eye on the tiger mosquito.
The Asian tiger mosquito, which is also known as the Aedes albopictus, has been documented in our region since 2016. and is considered an invasive species of public health interest.
The health unit says the mosquito is known to carry several diseases, but so far none of the mosquitoes collected locally have tested positive. Michelle Bondi stresses the goal is to better understand the local mosquito population, whether or not the tiger mosquito is found.
Even if we don't find tiger mosquitoes in our sampling effort this year, that's a good thing because we don't really want tiger mosquitoes in our area.
Residents who want to help can get a collection kit from the university or talk to the researchers about using their own mosquito traps. And they're hoping you'll freeze whatever you catch.
I mean, it's weird to hope for more rain and more mosquitoes, but if they're out there, we just want to collect them, that's all.
Chris Campbell, CTV News.
You don't have to get on a plane to go to the Himalayas this weekend. The Himalayan Festival is ongoing right now at Nathan Phillips Square, and it is packed. So that is what's going on down there. Let's see what's going on in the weather, everybody. It is right now feeling like 36 degrees in the city of Toronto. The humidex is really the story all across the province. And you can see in Windsor, it feels like 35, 34 in Kingston. Wyerton, where it's 22 degrees, it feels like 27. As we look at our evening patio forecast, it's going to be potentially lovely. There's a chance of showers, a 30% chance of showers, so depending on where you are. Let's hope that patio has an umbrella. 9 o'clock is going to feel like 24 degrees, 32 with the humidity, a bit of wind from the west. Wind shifts from the northwest at 11 p.m. It's going to still feel like 31 degrees at 11 p.m. As we look at our lows this evening, we're right where we're supposed to be, 17 degrees, and pretty consistent throughout the area. I think that the wind and the humidity will moved on, and so that's why we are feeling, I won't say cool, but comfortable. Wake up weather, 17 degrees, 18 by 7 a.m. and 20 degrees by 9 a.m. And tomorrow is really going to be a lovely day, a sunny day with some humidity. There you go, 33 tomorrow, pretty much throughout the region. Looking good for our Sunday. UV index is going to be high, so you want to practice safe sun, as our friend Anwar Knight would say. And looking at the next 7 days, everybody, it's a hopscotch, a hodgepodge. We've got sun, then we've got some rain, then we've got sun, then some rain. But really, it's the humidity stays with us all week. So depending on where you are and when you're outside, you may not see any rain at all. So there you go. That is a look at your forecast for the next week. To sports now, the Blue Jays are looking for another win in Philadelphia tonight after a nail-biting game yesterday.
And this time he does go around. Big strikeout for Soriano.
Jose Soriano made his debut with the Blue Jays after a rain delay. He pitched into the 4th inning and had 3 strikeouts. Andres Gimenez and Josh Smith each hit home runs, and Alejandro Kirk had 2 RBIs. The Jays were up 5-2 in the bottom of the 9th, but almost blew it, giving up 2 runs. They were able to hold on to beat the Phillies 5-2. The second game in this series kicked off early this hour. The Jays are leading 1-0. My husband says that an old favorite hit a home run. You're going to have to wait till 11:30 for me to tell you who that is. Anyway, moving right along.
A couple of them were up for mistakes, but here's another one down. Nice play by Bush, nice cover by Gausman, and it gets jacked.
Hey, remember him? Meanwhile, Kevin Gausman made his debut with the Chicago Cubs in Kansas City last night after the Blue Jays traded him to Chicago last weekend. Gausman pitched 7 innings, leading Chicago to a 6-4 victory over the Royals. Canada's last hope in the singles draw at the National Bank Open is still alive after Leylah Fernandez pulled off an upset win yesterday in the Big Smoke. That's Toronto, in case you don't know.
Game, fantastic Fernandez.
Woohoo! Fernandez topped 5th seed Mira Andreev in straight sets to advance to the round of 16. After the match, she described the added emotions of performing in her home country.
It actually does give me a lot of motivation, a lot of excitement. I mean, there's definitely nerves, but nerves means that I care, and it's just like something that I love to feel.
The 23-year-old from Montreal will take on the 11th-seeded Naomi Osaka in the round of 16 tomorrow. Can't wait to see what Naomi's wearing. Coming up, saddle up. The Boots and Hearts returns north of the city, bringing big stars, big crowds, and big country energy and some pop. More on this year's lineup after the break. Exciting news for country music fans as the annual Boots and Hearts Festival is kicked off north of the city. The Friday night crowd roared for Russell Dickerson. The multi-platinum singer-songwriter from Tennessee is a huge name in country music and was one of the main acts on the annual festival's first night in Oromodonte, about 90 minutes north of Toronto. After that, Grammy-nominated mega group, the Jonas Brothers, capped off the night on the main stage, proving that Boots and Hearts is more than country. The Chicks will headline tonight, with Rascal Flatts closing out the event tomorrow. Well, 3 decades after Road to Avonlea brought a fictional PEI community into living rooms across the country, some familiar faces are on the island. CTV's Maria Saru caught up with them in a location that might be familiar to those who watch the show.
Ruth had relatives on Prince Edward Island.
On screen, Avonlea was a place of family, feuds, and fresh starts. 30 years later, some of the people who brought it to life are reuniting in PEI.
It's surreal to be here on the island. It's been 30 years since I saw everybody, and it's heartwarming.
Well, I am delighted to welcome you to the White Sands, which is Dalveigh by the sea.
For Ian D. Clark, this place is especially familiar. His on-screen character, Simon Tremaine, owned the fictional White Sands Hotel.
I think Prince Edward Island, or PE Island as we always call it, it has a sort of magical quality to it. It has always made me feel incredibly humble to be a part of the series and to sort of feel, in a way, there's a part of PE Island in me as well. I remember. How could I forget?
For the actors, part of the show's staying power is the comfort viewers find in the world it created.
Especially with the world we live in today, which is, pretty challenging in many ways, and there's so much violence. You see, basic love stories and family stories and, people trying to start new business stories, and I think that's why people like it.
Those stories are finding new viewers, too. The first 4 seasons were added to Crave last month.
I think more than ever, it's a beautiful escape to watch the show and remember a time when people were kind.
More than a century after L.M. Montgomery put PEI communities on the page, her island stories still resonate, looming large in Canadian culture. The Road to Avonlea convention continues in Charlottetown tomorrow with panel discussions featuring cast and crew before the actors return here for dinner with fans. Maria Saru, CTV News, Dalveigh by the Sea, Prince Edward Island.
When we're on red carpets for TIFF and actors are on the red carpet, they like to focus on the movie at hand. So Callum Turner was dating Dua Lipa last year. They weren't married yet, and of course somebody had to go into his personal life, and that basically shut down the carpet. People, you're there to do one job. Richard Krause joins us now. Callum Turner is out with a new movie, and it's a romance. So I guess you could probably ask him about romance, but he's a guy that just likes to talk about the business at hand. So let's talk about the business at hand.
Which is a super weird rom-com. And so it's called One Night Only. It's in theaters now. And it is what I can only think of to call it a dystopian rom-com. So it's set in the near future, 3-4 years from now. It's in New York City, like a lot of other rom-coms, but there has been a law passed that makes premarital relations between single people illegal every day of the year except for one day. Then you have 12 hours to jump in and out of bed as many times as you can. And that's the premise that we have on this film. And it stars Callum Turner, Mr. Dua Lipa, and Monica Barbaro, who we remember from A Complete Unknown. She played Joan Baez, nominated for an Academy Award. They meet. They don't get along particularly well at first, but then over the course of this chaotic 12 hours, they keep bumping into one another and then maybe find that they've actually got a connection that goes beyond the physical. So it's a rom-com, absolutely. It fits the mold perfectly. But what I would have liked it to do, if you're going to have this kind of outrageous premise, engage with it a little bit, talk about it a bit. Why are people not rioting in the streets? Why did this law get passed in the first place? Tell me more. But I did enjoy it when they're on screen together. which is a pretty good chunk of the film. The movie is a lot of fun, and she is like Meg Ryan, which made me think that this movie is kind of like When Harry Met Sally mixed in with The Purge.
Well, it's so funny because from the trailer, I didn't get the purge aspect of the film, and now it's kind of all makes sense. But I think they look adorable on screen, and everybody loves love. So I mean, we've got 2 blockbusters at the theater right now, so maybe people will go and see this one instead. Okay, so switching gears, if I liked horror films, I'd be very excited that Eli Roth has a new film. But I don't like horror films. But apparently, you don't even like this film. It's called Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, I do like horror films, and I did not like this film. Eli Roth is a noted film director of kind of extreme horror for films like Cabin Fever and Hostel, which had, really extreme horror elements. And this one does too. But what I would say about this one, which is the story of a Norman Rockwell-esque town, a mysterious ice cream truck shows up that has wild flavors like serpent spit and whatever, serpent swirl and creepy crawly. The kids start eating these things and then become homicidal maniacs and try and kill all the parents and teachers in town. And so it's not particularly scary because once it starts happening, it just continues happening, and we don't know any of the characters really. So as these kids are killing people off in increasingly grosser and kind of awful ways, you kind of think to yourself, I don't know who this person is, so I'm not really invested in what's happening with the screen. Plus, the villain's not particularly interesting. So this is a rarity for me. It is a 1 star out of 5 film. It's called Ice Cream Man, and it's in theaters now. Okay, Richard, if this film was an ice cream flavor, what would it be? It would be a flavor that I'm not allowed to say the word on television. Okay, when we get off camera, you can tell me that. Okay, film critic Richard Krause, thanks for joining us tonight, 11:30. We'll talk about some of the shows that are available to watch on the small screen. See you then.
Okay, for me, Bordeaux Cherry. Okay, still ahead. Despite getting very little sleep these days, a Calgary couple is rejoicing after a long IVF journey ends with not 1, not 2, not 3, but quadruplets. We meet the family of 6 after the break. I guess never give up. After years of infertility struggles and thousands of dollars spent on trying to conceive a child, a Calgary couple is now learning what life is like with 4 newborns. The new parents are now happily juggling a lot of challenges along with their bundles of joy. CTV's Mark Villani reports.
Mama loves you so much.
1 baby is a handful, but 4 is a completely different adventure for new parents Lola and David Olawale.
I'm looking forward to seeing them grow and seeing, how their personalities evolve.
It's the rare arrival of quadruplets in Calgary, the first in 8 years. Known as the J4 Quads, Josiah, Joshua, Jemima, and Joanna were born through in vitro fertilization on May 7th prematurely at 29 weeks, spending between 60 to 83 days at the Foothills Hospital NICU before finally coming home. There's been no shortage of sleepless nights ever since.
From 12 in the night till 6 a.m., they don't get any sleep. So we also have to stay awake. 4 hands, it's not enough.
They can all go to bed. They advise sleep when the baby sleeps. Which baby?
The babies now go through 1 full can of formula and 24 diapers every single day. A GoFundMe page hopes to offset some of those costs, but the family is already struggling. Lola and David spent $25,000 for an IVF cycle in Calgary. After that failed, they traveled to Nigeria, opting for a cheaper $5,000 procedure where 2 embryos split into 4 and quite literally changed their world.
It would be good that we know that we have the government on our side, not setting up us to fail.
Alberta currently funds the freezing of eggs and sperm for cancer patients who may have to delay a childbirth, but unlike several other provinces, it does not provide funding for IVF treatments.
Fertility care is health care, period.
In a statement, the province says Alberta's public health care covers medical consultations, referrals, and lab services needed to diagnose infertility. We're exploring options to better support Albertans.
The cost of IVF, and oftentimes you need more than one IVF, as evidenced by this couple, the cost can be enormous. We need to do more.
But after thinking they'd never be lucky enough to have a child in the first place, these new parents are overjoyed to have even more than they ever bargained for.
We are blessed. We are so happy to have them.
It's been a wonderful journey so far.
Mark Villani, CTV News, Calgary.
Wow, wish them all the best. Okay, everybody, final look at the weather right now. It feels like 36 in Toronto, and that's a lovely look outside. But let's take a look at our maps right now, and you can see the heat. The color there is just showing you just how hot it is. 36 in Toronto, 27 in Peterborough. As we move along to looking at tomorrow at a glance, the Taste of the Danforth, if you're heading down there, or any number of events that are going on, it's going to be a great day to head out and have some fun. Just, you know, wear some sunscreen, wear a hat. Looking at the next 7 days, it's up and down, but really not one day does it say it's 100% all-day rain. So just depending on what your plans are, you should be able to, well, maybe Monday's not going to be great. But other than that, it's really not that bad at all. Well, everybody, that's it. Be sure to join us tonight at 11, the CTV National News, followed by our next local newscast at 11:30. In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca. For all the hardworking people in front of and behind the camera, thank you for watching, and have a good night. I will see you at 11:30. Good night.